This guy is an absolute threat with his legs. Miami being only 4.5-point favorites should tell you what Vegas thinks about both of these teams and what this environment and game could look like. I don't think it's going to be difficult for Alabama to get up for this game because Vandy just beat them a year ago. C.J. Carr is a star. He's one of the 3-4 best quarterbacks in college football to date.
Touchdown. These fans are the best in the country. A day like today is why we love college football.
Hey, welcome into the program, everybody. This is the Joel Klatt Show, and I am Joel Klatt. And this show is brought to you by Graduate by Hilton. We thank them for their support, as always. Love staying in the Graduates at all these college towns. Usually the best place to stay, there's no doubt. We've got picks and previews today. Before we get into those, just remember, if you have not yet done this, please go and subscribe to the show on YouTube and then follow us on social media. We're wherever you like the social media, all of the places at Joel Klatt Show, and you can catch us there. I was diving into some of the comments over from Monday's show. Remember, you can go check out Monday's show. That's where my top 10 is after last weekend. You can go check out Wednesday's show. I gave you a new bracket prediction as we get into October. That will change, though, almost certainly. There's no doubt. But as of now, you know, that's where we kind of sit. Today, we've got picks and previews, and what might not be on paper as good of a weekend as what we saw a week ago with these marquee, huge matchups. But I do think that there's going to be some really interesting games during the course of this weekend. Now, we've been on a little bit of a slow start, folks, okay? 1-4 last week. That hook in the Texas A&M Auburn game was not fun. That was not fun at all. Georgia not pulling that one out late. That was also not fun. So we are now 9-16 on the season against the spread. But just remember, last year, hold on. Last year, we were 24 games above 500 against the spread, and we went on a little bit of a tear right around now. In October, once we got a better feel for these teams, better feel for some of these young quarterbacks more specifically, we started racking up the wins. So, here we go. Let's go. This is when the comeback starts. We're going to get back to 500 and above in our picks, and here we go. Now, this one, we're not going to give a pick, but I do want to give a bit of a preview here for the game I'll be at. Big noon Saturday. Gus, Jenny, and I have the call as Michigan hosts Wisconsin in the Big House. Michigan looking to build off of that win over Nebraska and looking to just continue to build and mature with what is right now a fairly young team, namely at quarterback with Bryce Underwood. I think that win against Nebraska on the road was really big for that team. And candidly, they probably dominated that game more than what the scoreboard indicated, with a late score before half, kind of a Hail Mary situation from Nebraska, a late score from Nebraska as well. So the 30-27 margin wasn't really indicative of the game that you watched on film, right? However, it's a good win on the road against a team in Nebraska that I think is a lot better than people think that they are at this point. And that should be a building block for this Michigan team, in particular with all of their youth that they've got. They obviously had that Oklahoma loss, but they're building off of that. They've changed philosophically because of that loss. What we're seeing now is the young quarterback, Bryce Underwood, that has been freed up to play a little bit looser and use his legs. And that's been a huge point of Michigan's success over the last couple of games, whether it was Central Michigan or against Nebraska, is the ability of Bryce Underwood to use his legs. This guy is an absolute threat with his legs. Now, it doesn't mean that he's not a good thrower of the football. He does need to become a better passer of the football. Those two things are different. But the fact that he is now kind of unleashed to run is a real threat for opposing defenses. In fact, you know, when you talk with opposing defensive coordinators, they'll tell you that that's the thing that scares them the most. Now, Nebraska didn't honor that as much, and they did not defend that as well. And because of that, Underwood really hurt them with the few runs that he made. One a long touchdown run that you're watching on YouTube. He got a couple of first down runs. So this element of the Michigan team is a development from what we saw when they went on the road and lost in Norman to Oklahoma. They're a terrific run team in general. The element of the quarterback helps that, but even without Underwood running the ball, Justice Haynes has been absolutely fantastic and electric. He has been a home run hitter. They already have, I believe it's 4 rushes of over 50 yards or more. So the explosive run game is there from Michigan, and they've been really good in the trenches, even with some injuries. They've lost a couple of guards, had other guys come in there, and they continue to play well. Michigan's run game is going to get tested this week because what people don't know about Wisconsin, this Wisconsin team that has struggled so far early in the season, they actually have one great area of their team, like truly great area of their team, and that's rush defense. They're actually at this point right now the number 1 rush defense in America, and that's going to be leaned on this week in particular as they face a Michigan team that has to run the football to establish their rhythm, to establish their philosophy, and allow Underwood to throw on schedule. You know, I always talk about as a quarterback and as an offense, you would much rather throw the football because you want to versus when you have to. And this run defense from Wisconsin is going to try to force Michigan into a situation where they're throwing the football because they have to, that they're off schedule, that they can't run the football. That's the matchup that I'm most excited to watch. On the opposing side, this Michigan defense is starting to get their legs back a little bit. In fact, a huge addition to that defense early in this season has been Rod Moore has been back on the field in the last game. And at safety, they need his leadership. They need his veteran presence because that's the youngest, most youthful area of their team. They're pretty good up front. They're rotating a lot of guys, and they're facing a Wisconsin offense that has struggled mightily. Billy Edwards is their starting quarterback at Wisconsin, but he has been banged up. Transferred in. They thought he would be the guy. He's been banged up, and they're trying to get him back. We'll see if he's going to be healthy in this one. Not sure if he's going to be able to get back, but he tried it a couple of weeks ago, and he had to leave that game against Maryland. He's got a knee issue that stems back from week 1. They just can't stay healthy at quarterback over the last couple of years, and it's really hampered Luke Fickell's ability to kind of turn this program around. Now, they're also changing offensive philosophies. They went air raid when Fickell first got to Wisconsin. I didn't love that philosophy because that's just such a departure from what Wisconsin had been. Now, Jeff Grimes comes in as their new offensive coordinator, and he's very much more in the mold of what you would expect from a Wisconsin offensive coordinator. They're going to try to develop this offensive line, get a run game going, and make up for what has been a lot of quarterback injuries over the last couple of years. So Michigan's defense will be facing that offense on Saturday. And again, Gus Jenny and I will be there. Big Noon Kickoff will be there. Can't wait to see Underwood in person for the first time. All right, let's get into some of these matchups. The huge rivalry game down in the Sunshine State. Miami, 4.5-point favorites on the road against Florida State. Now, this game loses a little bit of its luster because of Florida State's loss last week. In that weeknight game, Friday night, they lost at Virginia. And again, classic trap game. If you have not listened to Wednesday's show, I define trap game, talk about trap games. That was a classic trap game. Florida State was on the road against a decent, not great opponent a week before a rivalry game, and they went down. It happened to be a weeknight game where they were on the road as well. That's where teams generally go to die. So they're coming off of that loss to Virginia, or else this one assuredly would have been a top 10 matchup and one that we were all like really amped up about. Lost a little bit of its luster, but still should be a fantastic game, and the line suggests that. Miami being only 4.5-point favorites should tell you what Vegas thinks about both of these teams and what this environment and game could look like. While Florida State was losing to Virginia, and yes, they get an extra day of rest because that was a Friday night game, but guess what? Miami's coming off of a bye. So they've been directly focused on this Seminoles team for 2 weeks. And Mario Cristobal and that defense more in particular has gotten to game plan against Florida State and that unique style of offense with Gus Malzahn as the offensive coordinator and Tommy Castellanos as their quarterback. So this great Miami defense with, I think, the most impactful defender of the season so far, Ruben Bain, has gotten to completely focus on Florida State for 2 weeks. I think their game plan should be excellent. It really should. And this is a defense that I believe could be as good as any in college football. In fact, I think the 3 best defenses in college football right now are Ohio State, Texas, and Miami. All right, these 3 defenses are incredible. Now, what goes along with that for Miami is the fact that their offensive line is also very good and winning the line of scrimmage. In fact, if you look at Carson Beck, their quarterback, he has been the least pressured quarterback in the country so far. So protecting a veteran quarterback, who, by the way, is coming off that elbow injury, but their offense, while they weren't great against Florida, Florida is still a pretty good defensive team, and they got the job done. They were able to run the football when they needed to late in that game, just tiring out the Florida defense. So I like Miami a lot. A lot. And Florida State is coming off of this loss. Yes, they'll be at home. The line isn't necessarily surprising, but I do like Miami in this game. The Miami defensive line is excellent, and they're athletic and they're long and they can run. Well, what do you need to stop the Gus Malzahn quarterback-centric run game for Florida State? You need a great, athletic, fast defensive line, and that's exactly what the Hurricanes have. Bit of a challenge, obviously. Florida State's number 2 in the country running the football. Miami, though, yet to allow 100 yards rushing, and that even includes Notre Dame, and we see what Notre Dame is doing offensively with Jeremiah Love. Miami has won 4 of their last 5 trips to Tallahassee. I've got Miami covering the 4.5. I think they win this ball game in a good one, but they win it 27-20. I'm gonna give those 4.5, and I'm gonna take Miami, and I think Miami is an excellent team. All right, let's go to some SEC matchups. Vanderbilt at Alabama. This is a 10.5-point line. That's a big number. That is a big number for a team in Alabama that, yes, got a huge win against Georgia, but do we really know if either of those teams are great? No. In fact, there's a lot of holes with Bama and with Georgia. Bama specifically can't stop the run, and they can't run the football very well. So what they're doing right now is winning with a great passing game. Ty Simpson has been terrific. There's no doubt. But this is not Bama of yesteryear. This is not a team that, like, well, if you get their full attention, they're going to beat you by 30. That's not the case. Even though Vandy will have their full attention a week after a huge win, I don't think it's going to be difficult for Alabama to get up for this game because Vandy just beat them a year ago. And that loss is going to be sticking right in their throat this entire week, and they're going to be motivated to play. There's no doubt. I just don't think that they have the roster that they used to, which would suggest that if you get their full attention, they're going to beat you by 2 or 3 scores. I don't think that they have that in their bag. They're a great passing team and okay everywhere else. That's just the truth. Clark Lee for Vanderbilt, very good coach. Vanderbilt comes into this one with the number 4 scoring offense in the country. They're scoring 49 points per game. Diego Pavia has a bit of a Haynes King feel to him, just a kind of a warrior. And I just don't feel like he's going to allow this game to get away from him. You know, he ran it, he'll run it 20 times if he needs to. He did it last year against Alabama. And because of that, you would think that he's going to fight and scrap for like 4 to 6 extra first downs. Well, when you're getting those extra first downs, you're limiting possessions on the other side. And then what does that do? It doesn't allow the other opposition to build a huge lead. You see, I might like Alabama in this one, but I think 10.5 might just be too much. Alabama's defense has struggled defending the run. They've given up over 200 yards rushing to both Florida State and to Georgia. In a lot of ways, Georgia should have won that game. Mistakes on 4th down, the dropped pass in the 4th quarter. Like those are mistakes that ended up allowing Alabama to win that football game. So I can love Ty Simpson, which I do. Top 3 quarterback in the sport right now. I can love their passing game, and I can see holes everywhere else. The one thing I'm going to lean on here is that Alabama is terrific at home. Terrific at home. They will get the full attention from this Bama team towards Vandy. Bama's 35-1 in their last 36 at home. So I like Bama to win, but I like Diego Pavia and this Vanderbilt team to stay close in this game. So I think Bama wins this one. I'm going to take the hook. All right, I'm going to take that half point and say 31-21. Bama wins. They beat Vandy, but not by more than 10.5. So I'm going to take the points and take Vandy against the spread. Texas at Florida, classic trap game. Got to love this. 2 really good defenses in this one. Texas's defense has only allowed 4 touchdowns total on the year. Florida's defense has only allowed 5 touchdowns total on the year. So my question would be, which offense is going to get going? Well, even though both of these offenses have struggled, I would say that the one that I think can break out would be Texas. We saw it against Sam Houston. I think there's elements that they can lean on. I do think Arch will play better. Remember, this is going to be his 2nd road environment that he's faced this season after seeing Ohio State week 1. I'll just put it this way. Like, Florida's defense is not better than Ohio State's defense. So Texas, even though this is a classic trap game with Red River next week, I do think because of their defense, Florida's going to have a hard time scoring the football, and Texas is going to be allowed to grind it out offensively, stay safe with the ball. If Arch doesn't turn this one over, Texas wins this football game, and they would be fine being favored by 6.5. I love that I'm getting that half point, and it's not 7 or 7.5 in this one. I think Arch is going to be a lot better. My question is, how does Florida score? Because everyone has adjusted to DJ Lagway. DJ Lagway last year, part of his success and part of the excitement building towards this year was the big plays and the splash plays. What we have not seen him do is orchestrate and operate the system with any consistency in order to go create scores without the big plays. Well, defenses have adjusted. If you take away the ability to have a big play with soft zone coverage, so on and so forth, then guess what? Like, where do they go from there? Where do they go? And by the way, Florida's facing a Texas defense that I think is the second best defense in the sport. Let's put it this way. LSU playing good defense this year. Yeah, I'll give you that. Let's see. Is Texas better defensively than LSU? Yeah. Is Texas better defensively than South Florida? Yeah. So now you get where I'm going. Like, where does Florida go? How do they score if they're not getting the big plays, which I don't think they'll get? Texas is too good taking away the big plays. It's why they have only allowed 4 touchdowns all year. Pete Kwiatkowski, the defensive coordinator, specializes in that. Make a team drive all the way down the field. I don't think Florida can do that. So at best, I think Florida is kicking a bunch of field goals. I don't think that they're going to be able to score a ton of touchdowns. He's not shown the ability to drive and put the ball in the end zone, and I don't think Texas will allow him to do that. So teams have adjusted. Lagway and Florida have not. Billy Napier, I think, is primed for another loss right here. I think Texas covers the 6.5. I could see them winning this 21-12. Again, just a bunch of field goals. You get to 12. Can Texas score 3 touchdowns? Yes, they've got the talent, and I do think Arch is going to play much better in this game. I really believe it. I think that he found something against Sam Houston, and I get it. I understand it's just Sam Houston. But when you find something and you start to feel the rhythm and you start to that reminds me of Cool Runnings. Feel the rhythm, feel the rhyme. Look out. It's bobsled time, right? Isn't that what they say? I think that's what they say. I love that movie. As he begins to feel the timing of the offense, remember a couple of weeks ago, you guys can go back and watch these shows that I talked about Arch specifically. You can find him on social media as well. I talked about him just being ahead of the offense and that the timing wasn't right with the offense for Texas because he was ahead of the offense. Well, he got on time against Sam Houston. If he can take that into the Florida game, not turn the football over, I do think they'll be able to score 3 touchdowns. If they score 3 touchdowns, Florida doesn't really have a chance. I get it. They're at home, but that's all right. South Florida went in there and won. So again, Texas is going to cover the 6.5. I've got them winning this game 21-12. What looks to be a good game on paper in the Big 12, which I don't think is going to be a great game. Texas Tech on the road at Houston. And Vegas is telling us something here, 10.5. Texas Tech is favored by 10.5. And you know what? I don't know if that's going to be enough. They're both undefeated, but one of these undefeateds look a lot different than the other. Okay, first of all, they have a common opponent in Oregon State. And Houston struggled to beat Oregon State. Texas Tech did not. And they were up big even in the first half. Houston's been a nice story, but I think this could be a rude awakening, in particular with the matchup, because there is a clear weakness for Houston going on their offense where Texas Tech is uniquely and specifically very strong, and that is protecting the passer. Houston has really struggled protecting Connor Wigman. They're 134th right now out of 136 in the quarterback pressure rate allowed. That's not a good stat to be weak in when you're about to face what is the best defensive line in the Big 12 and one of the better defensive lines in the entire country. All those transfer guys that rolled into Texas Tech, they can get after it. Romello Height, these guys, they are very good up front. They totally won the line of scrimmage against Utah, and Utah's offensive line, I think, is considered one of the top 5 offensive lines in college football. Houston does not have that offensive line. So this could be an extraordinarily long day for Houston on their offensive side. Plus, the defensive coordinator for Texas Tech, his name is Sheil Wood. It's his first year. Guess where he came from? Houston. He knows specifically what this Houston team is going to be trying to do. He understands the personnel out there. Not all of the personnel, but a lot of it. And now he's got a very good football team with a lot of talent up front that can win the line of scrimmage. Great linebackers led by Jacob Rodriguez, who are turnover machines right now. I expect Houston to turn the football over 2, 3, maybe even 4 times. I do not expect this to be a very close game. And Texas Tech's offense doesn't really matter who's at quarterback. So you could tell me, or you could, if you're a Houston fan, you're like, well, we don't know who's going to start for Texas Tech because Baron Morton got banged up against Utah. Is it going to be him or Will Hammond? I don't think it matters. Did you see Will Hammond play in the fourth quarter against Utah, which is one of the better defenses in the country? It was electric. He was so good. He was so good. So while we expect Baron Morton back and likely to play in this game, does it matter? And the answer to that is no. Texas Tech is better on offense. Texas Tech is better on defense. In fact, their defense is number 2 in the country in rush defense, so it's not like Houston's going to be able to run the football. They can't protect the passer. How is Houston scoring in this game? I get it, they're at home. And you're facing an offense that is incredibly high-powered, that has answers and layers to the way that they attack. Run game of the Gus Malzahn run game and kind of that spread option type system, plus the air raid traditional offense of Texas Tech, plus the deep choice routes that Heupel and Art Briles famously run. Tech in this game, they cover the 10.5. I think they win it big. I'm going to be generous with this final score, by the way. 42-17. Tech wins this one. This is a really good football team. The class of the Big 12, one of the best teams in the country. All right. And I think Texas Tech wins this one and sends a message to the rest of the conference. South Bend, Boise is going to Notre Dame in a game that looked a lot better on paper in the preseason than it does now. Notre Dame is number 21 in the country. That's because the AP doesn't know how to evaluate teams, and they're much better than 21 in the country. That's just evaluating their loss column. That's not evaluating the teams that actually gave them those losses, Miami and Texas A&M. This offense has been absolutely rolling since those 2 losses. And even in the loss to A&M, they played well. By the way, scoring 24 against Miami, nothing to scoff at in that defense. They're getting better and better and better. CJ Carr is a star. If you have not watched CJ Carr, he's one of the 3-4 best quarterbacks in college football to date. He has been fantastic. I think you can project him looking forward. I think he's absolutely a top 5-10 pick in the NFL draft when he decides to come out in the future. He's young right now. He's just developing, and he's fantastic. He's on time. He's on target. This offense is playing extraordinarily well. 56 points in back-to-back games against Purdue and Arkansas. Ran Sam Pittman out of town. Arkansas fired their coach. I love what I'm seeing from CJ Carr. I love how they've been getting their run game incorporated into the way they throw the football. So Jeremiah Love has been getting involved. They're just really good on the offensive side. I don't think Boise is going to be able to slow them down. Plus, you've got this idea or this thought that Notre Dame understands that they're behind the 8 ball. They need to be 10-2 to go to the college football playoff. I think we all understand that, but it's not just going to be 10-2. They can't squeak by all of these teams. I think they uniquely know that they have to be impressive in every one of these games. So they're favored by 20.5. Woof. I mean, Vegas is trying to tell us something with this line as well, that Notre Dame is really good. And maybe we shouldn't look at those 2 losses. Is that's not a word. Those 2 losses, and we shouldn't penalize them as bad as we've been penalizing them in the AP poll. Again, the AP poll is just so bad. I can't wait to get to the rankings, even though I have my problems with the rankings as well. Humans, man, what are you going to do? Having said that, though, this Notre Dame defense is a bit of a concern. I don't know if Boise's the team that's going to be able to really exploit that. I think that you've got to throw the football to a really high degree in order to exploit the Notre Dame defense. That's their weak point, which we didn't expect going into the season. There was questions about this young quarterback and the offense, and we thought, well, their defense is always going to be good. Their defense has not been great, but again, Boise, which is a good running team, not featuring any one back like they did last year with Ashton Genty. They go along with quarterback Maddox Madsen. Are they going to threaten Notre Dame? I don't think that you're going to threaten Notre Dame in this one. They know they need to run the table. They know they need to run the table in emphatic fashion. And I think that they do in this game. So 20.5. I know this sounds crazy. And it's like, how do you go 9-16 through the first month? Well, you give away 20.5 points, and I'm going to do it again. I think Notre Dame covers this 20.5. I think they win huge. 48-24. Is that out of the question? No, it's not out of the question. Again, folks, if you just watch the Irish on offense, it's something to behold. And I don't think Boise has the defense to hold them up in this game. So here are the picks this week. Here we go, baby. We're going to get on a hot streak in October. Let's go. Week 6 picks. I'm going to take Miami. I'm going to give the 4.5. I know that one's on the road, but Miami historically plays well in Tallahassee. And the week off is going to be the key in that one. Ruben Bain and that defense has gotten to game plan, do everything that they need to do to prepare for Tommy Castellanos in that offense and that Florida State run game, which has been very good. Florida State coming off the loss, give me Miami. I think that they win this game, and I think they do it by over 4.5. Vandy, Alabama. Remember now, Alabama is going to be motivated in this one because of last year's loss to Vanderbilt. We understand that. Now, I do think that they're going to have some bumps and bruises because that game winning in Athens, that is not easy to do. So I don't think they're going to be 100%. I don't think they'll be totally fresh, although I do think they'll win this football game. 10.5 is just a big number. So I think Vandy and Diego Pavia make this difficult on Alabama, but Alabama throwing the football is just too elite for Vanderbilt. They're too good at home. They've won 35 of their last 36 in Tuscaloosa. So I'm going to say Bama wins the game, but I'm going to take that 10.5. The half point there, I couldn't get myself to give that extra half point. So I think Bama wins this one by 10, and I'm going to take Vandy and the points. Texas on the road against Florida. Florida's not going to be able to score in this game. DJ Lagway, without big plays down the field, has shown an inability to drive the football with consistency and put it in the end zone. You're not going to do that against Texas. Texas, in my estimation, is the second best defense in the country. They've only given up 4 touchdowns, and they're going to take away the deep play. They're going to take away the explosive play. After that happens, how does Florida score? I don't see it. They're averaging 11 points against FBS competition. Nope. Texas is good enough offensively, and Arch is going to play, I think, his best game. I think they score 3 times, 21-12. So Texas covers a 6.5 on the road at Florida, even what I consider to be a trap game looking ahead to Red River next weekend. I'm nervous about that pick, but I'm going to believe in that defense. Texas Tech at Houston. I think Texas Tech wins this one big. Their defense is too good. It's a terrible matchup for Houston. I'm going to give the 10.5. Red Raiders win this one on the road. And then the huge number, yep, I believe in Notre Dame's offense. I really do. I believe in C.J. Carr, Jeremiah Love in that offense. I think they score a bunch, and I don't think Boise is going to be able to keep up. So I'm going to give the 20.5. And I'm going to take Notre Dame at home to win in emphatic fashion. So that'll do it for the picks this week. Listen, I hope you enjoy the week of college football. Big noon kickoff live from Ann Arbor. Big noon Saturday as Michigan welcomes in Wisconsin. Gus, Jenny, and I will have the call. I hope you enjoy the weekend of college football, and we'll be back on Monday with another recap and top 10 list here on the Joel Klatt Show.